This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Right now, we're at the point of the rewatch where we're entering this odd period of the Browns season. And this is where I think the rewatch is going to be very effective for what I want to achieve with it, because this is one of the more forgotten about periods of the Browns season, right? Once Deshaun Watson goes down, after the excitement of the DTR drive to beat Pittsburgh, there is this little bit of a lull in the season, right? With these next two games of Denver versus Cleveland and Los Angeles versus Cleveland. Like, there is the low of DTR's last game and how weird it was, how weird it ended. There's the low of the start of Joe Flacco. He doesn't really do much that starts to become interesting until after that game. It's this weird lull where people were kind of in this weird place of like, hey, can the Browns even be a playoff team? And I think that's what makes rewatching this season, this part of the season, so interesting. I think there's a lot here that happens in this Denver game that kind of gets forgotten about going forward. And it kind of reminds me of the wild card game that happened for this Browns team, because a lot of similar things happen, right? JOK plays great despite the defense giving up a lot of big plays, a lot of turnovers on offense that leads to a ton of points for the Denver Broncos. This was not the Browns' best outing. I have a lot of thoughts on whether that has to do with them being on the road or not from a stance of the defense. And I have a lot of thoughts about DTR. But to talk about those thoughts, I think it's better and more clearly illustrated if I can just do the film of the parts I'm talking about. So let's just jump into the film room. This game, and then you add this on top of the LA game and some of the Flacco games after that, was really when that whole road defense started to pick up, with the road defense narrative start to pick up, especially nationally, with this Cleveland Browns defense. I do think that that narrative is extremely overblown. I think the Browns defense had issues, but I don't think it was exclusive, those issues, to playing on the road, or that the road was causing them some kind of like special issues that it just wasn't causing at home. I think that's just a matter of perception and the defense having to overcome more turnovers on the road as well. Like, if you look at just this game, you'll look at the box score, you see the Browns lost this game, 12-29. And you go, oh my God, their defense must have stunk. Well, 12 of those points were off of turnovers. There was a fumble, whatever they did with PJ Walker and Pierre Strong, that turned into a touchdown. There was another fumble earlier in the game that turned into 3 points. And then there was a safety in this game. So if you add all those up, that's 12 points off turnovers or safeties. And those are 12 points that have more to do with what the offense was doing and less to do about what the defensive performance was. And if you looked at this game and you saw that the Browns only gave up 17 points, all of a sudden the narrative that the Browns defense is magically worse on the road is a little bit harder to paint. But since those 12 points did happen, since those turnovers did happen, since those safeties did happen, and the Browns defense was not able to stop them from scoring on multiple short fields, which some people can still judge them because they weren't able to stop them off short fields. But this Browns defense was able to put up generational numbers despite having an offense that created the most turnovers in the league. So they were pretty good at that. It's just when you turn the ball over so much, you're going to give up points no matter how great your defense is, no matter what defense you throw out there. In this Browns defense that already turned the ball over a lot at home, turned the ball over a lot more on the road, which made the perception of the defense even worse on the road. But that's not to say that the Browns defense doesn't actually have problems. They do. Some of their problems are personnel related. Some of their problems are just a give and take with what they do well. The first thing that pops up in this game as a problem is Greg Newsome's matchup here on Courtland Sutton. It's not a great matchup. Greg Newsome runs a 4.440, but what Greg Newsome does not do or is not great at is explosion. He's not a very explosive athlete. He was in the 30th and 60th percentile in his 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle. He was not measuring at any explosive way. Courtland Sutton, on the other hand, not a very long speed kind of guy, not going to burn you, but a lot of explosion there. You're going to see this come up here on plays like this, and this happened to Greg a couple of times in this game where, it's a left turn here and Greg just can't keep up. He can't explode out that break to keep up with Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton gains ground on him. Big gain here, leads to a touchdown. Another one here. Again, this is on Greg Newsome. So look at the bottom of your screen at the 50. Again, same play, left turn here, and Greg just can't keep up with him. It's not like he ran a great route. It's not like, well, it's a good route, but it's not like he broke him off something furious at the top of this route to shake him. Greg just doesn't have great explosion out of his turn, and Courtland Sutton does, and they're able to take advantage of that. And if you leave that matchup with time, look at both of these plays. Russ gets plenty of time here to make a decision on this one, and then the second play here, Russ gets plenty of time to make a decision as well. This is partly a consequence of just not having Denzel Ward too, because in a game where Denzel Ward is healthy, right, this Browns defense is not putting Greg Newsome in that spot, which means that those easy completions aren't there because you're not going to just be able to left turn Denzel Ward that easily. Like you're gonna have to do something a little bit differently. But Greg Newsome, that's not where he excels at. Where Greg Newsome excels at as a nickel corner is if they try to stretch him vertically or if he's in run support. I think he does a good job there. He's on and off a little bit, but any DB in that position is going to be on and off. I think he's more on than he is off in run support. I think that's what Greg Newsome does well. But when you ask him to kind of cover these in-breaking routes, out-breaking routes, he's not going to do great at that, especially if it's going away from him, because he just doesn't have the recovery ability that like a Denzel Ward has. If you watch Denzel Ward's tape, you see some of the best recovery ability in the NFL. That's not Greg Newsome's strength. Greg Newsome's strength is going vertical, sticking vertical, having good feet, not getting beat on double moves up the seam, meanwhile, and kind of coming up and creeping up and being a solid enough tackler and run support. But yeah, this is just a bad matchup here for Greg Newsome. I think that was the first thing that wasn't going great for the Browns defense in this game. Another thing is that this Browns defense isn't above getting ran on. Like, I think we need to acknowledge that. They don't get ran on consistently. They're not a bad run defense team, but they're just not the most consistent, and that's kind of a trade-off that they make here. On a play like this on the goal line, though, I want to point out that you want Dalvin Tomlinson to kind of wall that up a little bit, but that's besides the point. That'll come up in Dalvin's video. But yeah, they're not above being ran on. Like, you look here, especially when the Browns try to get their pass rushing personnel out there in the interior. You see this is just Miles, Alex Wright, Maurice Hurst, and Jordan Elliott. Russ was checking into this trap play pretty much consistently where they pull this guard into the defensive tackle. They run Maurice Hurst around because they know he's going to try to go upfield, and then they just slide a tackle? Yeah, they push the tackle through in the gap and get JOK, and boom. Good job there by Grant Delpit to minimize the damage, but this Browns team's not above getting ran on. It just is what it is. It's going to happen every once in a while. Another issue that this Browns team had was giving Russ too much time. They sometimes they were super aggressive and tried to blitz him, and that led to him being comfortable because he's able to make plays out of structure. Russ, still on some level, still able to do that, still sees the field well when he's under pressure. And he just gave him way too much time to make a play here. Now, to switch to some things that the defense did well, I thought JOK was amazing in this game. Another game where he's amazing and the Browns kind of don't put the best effort around him. But look here, he just sees things. I'm going to start calling him Future Man because he just sees things before they happen. Another one here where he just gets there before anybody else could. JOK, especially later in the year, and even earlier in the year, like I'm doing my countdown video or my ranking video for this upcoming season. And JOK, whenever I'm gathering highlights like this from a film breakdown, just so many damn clips of JOK doing this throughout the year. I mean, he was one of the best in the NFL at that, if not the best in the NFL at that last year. And this is again, JOK just coming from the line of scrimmage and in big play there. All right, so that's the defense. Let's move on to the offense. Before the rewatch during the season, I was pretty positive on DTR, right? I thought that he had a chance to be just as good as Joe Flacco was at the end of the season. But this rewatch, watching the film again, I just don't feel as confident about that for a number of reasons. Not to say that I don't think DTR doesn't do anything well. We'll start with what he does do well, right? When he's throwing within 15 yards or 15, maybe you can push it to 20, and he's throwing inside the numbers, he's capable of making some plus level throws at times, right? You're going to see this here where he makes a nice throw to Elijah Moore, in the middle of the field. Elijah Moore runs what I think is a more impressive route here. I just want to show that route here. Watch Elijah Moore in this route in real time. Whew, it's a beauty. But good timing, getting the ball. It's accurate. Good job there by DTR, right? And you're going to see his best throws in this game and in his career are in that middle of the field, 15, 20-yard area, right? Great throw there to David Njoku. Gets that ball there. I don't know if it was intentional to get it low right there, but, it worked out, right? Cool. Another one here where he's on the left hash, throws it, and this is a beautiful throw to, I believe, Cedric Tillman. Look, cross his body a little bit, still a rope, still got him, in rhythm, in stride. Good throw there. Again, some of his best stuff comes from that area. Look, that throw to David Njoku, David's got to catch that, but that's a good throw. Sometimes he got a little unlucky in this game, right, where he gets this ball batted, but that's almost certainly a touchdown to David Bell if that ball doesn't get batted. I'm pretty confident he can make that throw. Another one here where this should have been a completion to Amari Cooper, sets his feet. That's a good enough ball for Amari to catch. Amari doesn't catch it. He even took some off of it. The thing with DTR, so that's what DTR does well. Now, he's capable of doing some of the stuff that he doesn't do well every once in a while. I'll show you some throws in this game that I thought were impressive, that were outside the numbers, before we get to the stuff that I think he really struggles with and kind of hurts any upside that he might have in the NFL, right? Because this is a nice throw. Gets it to Cedric Tillman, and it's about 15, 20 yards in the air on the opposite hash. It's pretty nice, right? Let's go look at it again. Good feet. He's on the opposite hash of where this throw goes. And that ball goes about less than 20 yards in the air. Well, probably more because it's diagonal, but 20 yards of for the offense, right? So, boom. Another one here where he's off his back foot and he gets this one out there to Amari Cooper. And this one goes how many yards in the air, right? Amari catches this about at the 35. This ball gets released. We'll say at the, it doesn't feel like the 11, feels like the 12. Yeah, at the 12. So, not bad. Not bad there. Goes about a little over 20. Close to 25 yards in there. He really had to push it, but it's good there, right? Another one here. And I thought this was his best throw of the season and his best passing play of the season, because I like how he processed this, right? He looks, processes, steps up, throws it in traffic, good throw, right? That's what you want to see from DTR. The problem is those come few and far in between. And then when you look at him throw outside the numbers, while these throws are impressive when you look at them in the vacuum of DTR, right? Like this throw is impressive when you see it in the vacuum of DTR. This throw is impressive when you see it and you're just looking at it in the vacuum of comparing it to other DTR throws. These throws, though, while you love to see DTR make them because he's not great at them, the only reason they're impressive is because he doesn't do them quite often. This is PJ Walker with probably the best outside the number throw in the game, same conditions, and just look how much more natural and more capable he is of doing that. And that's kind of the issue. It's just, it feels like an arm strength issue because PJ can get this ball out, release it pretty smoothly. And remember, they're in Denver, high altitude, but that applies to both players here. And PJ kind of just easy glide, release that, and it's cleaner on the outside numbers than anything that DTR threw all game. And that's kind of the issue because we're not talking about Josh Allen right now, throwing that ball and making it look easier, Pat Mahomes. We're talking about PJ Walker making it look so much easier than DTR. And you have to wonder, like, hey, man, if PJ is outclassing you this much in arm strength, and you don't really have the consistent accuracy to make up for it, that's where you start to have to question upside, even if it's a rookie, because this stuff's not going to change year to year. He's not going to get a dramatically stronger arm. He could become more accurate, but that's very rare. Josh Allen is one of the few people to be able to do that, right? And this is the accuracy stuff that I worry about. Like, even when he's completing a pass, like, this is way behind David. David just does a great job of spinning around for that. But that was a drop last week, right? He got kind of not lucky, but more fortunate in this game because some of these passes that would have been drops last week, they caught. This is not an accurate pass to Cedric Tillman for where you have him. This one, Amari Cooper, just not accurate. And then this one, not accurate, middle of the field. Even when in his hot, this is his strike zone, right? He should be pretty hot here, but can't get an accurate ball there. Another one where that's just not accurate. Again, in his strike zone, a little bit down the field. You notice once you get about past that 15-yard marker for how far that throw has to travel in the air, then you start to see issues. This is a fumbled snap that he had to Kareem Hunt, really derailed the drive. This one right here just throws a complete medicine ball to Jerome Ford, who actually played well. We'll talk about that in a second. But threw a medicine ball to Jerome Ford, right, leading him towards that linebacker. For what reason? I don't know, because he already won the route. If he's just a little earlier, he doesn't have to do that. But throws a medicine ball, gets Jerome Ford just murdered, and the ball doesn't get caught. Same thing here, just inaccurate ball to Amari Cooper. And then this ball to David Njoku, don't know where that was even supposed to go. That had to be a miscommunication. All right, but that's the issue, right? If you wonder why, even though DTR is a rookie, I'm out on the potential of him like potentially becoming a starter or something, it's because I don't think that these things right here, and I think he got hit while he threw that, to be fair, so that's why it was so off. But these things don't change from being a rookie, right? Some of the other stuff that you have, maybe it changes, maybe it doesn't, but these things I worry about, right? These are more fatal issues. Whereas if I'm talking about somebody more established, like a Deshaun Watson, obviously there's a three-time Pro Bowler. There's a history established in the NFL of successful playmaking. And the issues aren't this stark with Deshaun Watson like they are with DTR, which is expected because Deshaun, again, three-time Pro Bowler. Or even like or even like a Jameis Winston or a PJ Walker, you know, even if we're comparing him to other quarterbacks in the backup class, that's where you start to run into issues. Now, I do want to talk about Jerome Ford before I get out this film room. I thought Jerome Ford played pretty nicely in this game. Thought he really saw it well. Like when Jerome sees it well and he's just being an athlete, there's a lot there for Jerome. The question is the vision just inconsistent, right? Because that just might be what it is. Some players are just inconsistent. I think that's where Jerome Ford kind of falls in. I kind of call him, I've called him the Karis LeVert of the Browns offense. And that's kind of true, right? Like sometimes he gives you great games. He's seeing it well. You know, he's using that explosion, getting downfield. And other times he's not. It's kind of carry to carry with him. But, you know, when he's seeing it well, he's a good athlete. He's going to be on NFL rosters for a long time because of his ability to at times see, plant, and run. But it's just not consistent enough to start him, right? You just don't want to rely on him. But those are the film kind of breakdown moments of this week's game. As far as the defense goes, I don't think they were bad in this game. They clearly weren't playing their best, and they weren't able to overcome the quarterback play. But that really shouldn't be the bar that we judge the defense on. You know, this defense basically put the offense in a position that they only had to score 20 points and take care of the football to win this game. But unfortunately, the defense had to deal with multiple turnovers in short fields given by the offense. And, you know, in terms of a safety, they gave up 2 points themselves. So that is something that the Browns defense on the road had to deal with all year. And I think if that's not a factor that they have to deal with, then they'll probably perform much better on the road, because I don't think this was a comfort thing. I don't think it was a energy thing like a lot of people make it out to be. I just think this was your offense already wasn't great, but on the road, they played even worse and turned the ball over even more, which led to more possessions that you had to deal with. That's a whole video in itself, but that's what I got from this watch. DTR, I'm not moved by this game. It is a better game than he had the other two, but that's a really low bar to compare it to. You know, where I'm at the end of this rewatch on DTR is, you know, I don't think that we should be moving things or making decisions with DTR's upside in mind. That's just where I'm at. I think there's upside for him. I don't think there's upside for him with this team, or at least a great chance of there being a ton of upside for him with this team. And look, the Browns defense was not the reason they lost this game, but you can look at issues that the Browns defense has when they don't play great games that might pop up next year that you want to keep an eye on, because it might be possible that you have more bad games next year, right? The run defense stuff, I think it's a real thing. I think it's just a sacrifice of how you play football. When you want to be wide nine, like the Cleveland Browns want to be on the defensive line, so you're going to have a wide set. When you want to have as many guys who can rush the passer, smaller defensive tackles, or you put smaller guys at the 3-tech position in order to rush the passer, you're going to get gapped in the run game every once in a while by a team that's really good at recognizing that. And that's what Russ did in this game. He recognized a lot of those. He recognized those fronts and it ran right into them and did a good job of having a good run game versus this Cleveland Browns defense. I also think the big plays in the passing game, some of that is fixable with more time in offense, but I think a lot of that is just physics, man. Like, you do one-on-one defense, you play man coverage enough, you're going to get burnt eventually by it. I think that's just the risk that they're willing to take to be aggressive as a pass rushing team and to get as many people on the line of scrimmage to rush it as possible. I think that's just the gamble they're willing to take. And that's just going to be a constant thing that we're going to have to live with the Jim Schwartz defense. It's just part of the philosophy, right? There's always some positive, but with positive, you always have a little bit of a negative, right? And I think that's a negative of having the Jim Schwartz defense. And it popped up big in this game because the Browns weren't really doing a great job of capitalizing on pressure. So that's my thoughts on this game. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.